HBO, live from London, heavyweight contenders Razor Ruddock of Canada and Lennox Lewis of England. The winner to meet the winner of the bout between Evander Holyfield and Riddick-Bowe for the title. Ruddock versus Lewis, next, live on HBO.
Boxing means champions. Boxing means tradition. Boxing means HBO. Live from London, the heavyweight title eliminator. #1 contender Razor Ruddock. Can he cut down #2 Lennox Lewis for the right to face the world champ? Plus Taylor versus Espana in a world championship boxing doubleheader.
You know where it happened.
Taylor versus Espana and Ruddock versus Lewis. Coming up next on HBO.
The following is a special presentation of HBO Sports.
Tales from the ring. Eeny, screamy, slimy Mo. Who fights the winner of Holyfield-Bowe? Will it be Lennox Lewis, or will it be Razor Ruddock? We find out tonight in a glorious new episode of Tales from the Ring. Now, Ruddock the Razor is a sharp fella, #1 on the WBC most wanted list. His punches made pudding out of dynamite dough, and his hooks made mush out of Bone Crusher Smith. He sliced and diced, and almost toppled Tyson twice. Perhaps the Razor will be slashing again tonight. Yes, this Razor seems to have quite the edge. But don't discount Lennox Lewis. He's boned a few skills of his own and can turn anybody's fight night into fright night. Talk about mad dogs and Englishmen. This Lewis has both. He's whacked and wobbled Weaver, smashed and buried Beef, and during the '88 Olympics, he even bent a bitter bow. No doubt about it. This is one bloody Brit who can really make your head split. Seems if I was Lewis, I'd keep Ruddock all tied up. And if I was Ruddock, I'd use my hook. No pain, no gory. That's what I always say. But since no one seems very interested in the Crypt Keeper's fighting tips, let's get it on and see who gets the trick and who gets the treat and for whom the skull told. Get ready, kiddies, for the WBC heavyweight title elimination fight between #1 ranked Razor Ruddock and the #2 contender, Lennox Lewis. A Halloween thriller go-go right here on HBO.
From the capital of the culture where organized boxing was invented, but where no native son has held the sport's most prestigious title for nearly 100 years, we bring you a fight which will be instrumental in the heavyweight championship picture. We are live from Earl's Court in London, England, where HBO Sports presents a boxing doubleheader. First, the WBC heavyweight title elimination between the #1 contender Razor Ruddock and the #2 contender Lennox Lewis, the winner guaranteed by contract to face the victor in the November 13 showdown between Holyfield and Bowe. And then WBA welterweight champion Meldrick Taylor defending his title against top-ranked, unbeaten contender Crisanto Espana. Both fights are scheduled for 12 rounds. And hello again, everybody. I'm Jim Lampley. Welcome to an evening on HBO's World Championship Boxing in which we have a full bag of treats for you. As I mentioned, Meldrick Taylor defending his WBA World Welterweight Championship against Crisanto Espana of Venezuela. That fight took place earlier, has been recorded, and we will bring it to you later on after the Lewis-Ruddock fight. Also, during the course of our live broadcast this evening, you'll have a chance to offer your vote on who you believe will win the upcoming heavyweight championship fight between champion Evander Holyfield and challenger Ruddock. If you believe the champion will retain his title, give a call to 1-900-246-HOLY, H-O-L-Y, and cast your vote. If you believe that the challenger will beat Holyfield, then call 1-900-246-BOW. Each call costing 65 cents, the collected proceeds from the evening's poll to go to the Mark Ettis Foundation for the benefit of disadvantaged former fighters. If you're in a West Coast time zone, incidentally, we caution you, don't bother to call in on the Holyfield-Bowe poll because there in the West, this fight is being seen tape delayed rather than live, and therefore your vote wouldn't count. Now, on to the business at hand. The title eliminator between Lennox Lewis of England and Ruddock of Canada. It's my own personal judgment that never in the history of the sport have two 230-pound athletes with the natural gifts of Lewis and Ruddock, I should say, gotten into the ring against each other. Bowe becomes a part of the picture somewhere down the road if he's able to beat Holyfield. For more on that and watching the fights with us, HBO boxing analyst Larry Merchant. Larry, two big men, a very big night.
That's right. Big men, big stakes. That means big stuff. And what truly makes it big is the big picture. This is the first of 3 fights that will either validate Evander Holyfield as a heavyweight champion or give us a new heavyweight champion. What also makes this big is the willingness of Lewis and Ruddock to fight each other rather than duck each other and merely wait for a guaranteed shot at the title for bigger money than they're going to make tonight. That says something about them. As a business proposition, this fight, well, it's like a polar bear needing snowshoes. It doesn't make any sense. Finally, what makes this fight big is the probability that the winner tonight will be favored to beat the winner of Holyfield versus Bowe. Big stuff, Jim.
Great point about the two polar bears with snowshoes, Lennox Lewis and Ruddock. For once, it is not all about business. This fight, at least as much about honor and pride and all the fundamental things that can make boxing so exciting. And here with us, one of the most exciting heavyweight champions of all time, still a heavyweight contender, George Foreman. George, in addition to the title implications and some personality conflicts we'll talk about later on, you have the classic style confrontation, the overwhelming puncher in Ruddock against Lewis, who is more of a boxer. Now, on form, we would expect you to favor the puncher. Do you?
Ordinarily, I would, but this time, I believe if Lewis is able to contain himself and his corner tell him to fight 3 minutes only every round, most heavyweights throw it away in 4 or 5 minutes per round, then they're tired. And vultures like Ruddock, they hoover in and then say, I got you. But he'll be hovering and waiting for something to die. He's not your devastating predator. He waits for it to unfold itself. If it doesn't unfold, he'll wait for 12 rounds, as he did with Mike Tyson.
In which case, Lewis can win a decision.
Lewis can easily win a decision. He's got the bigger and longer left jab. He's got the enthusiasm, and he can win this thing.
So George Foreman picks an upset. That is a source of great excitement to English boxing fans who pin their hopes on Lennox Lewis to erase nearly 100 years of heavyweight frustration. Lewis comes, as you'll see now, from a boxing culture entirely different than our own. As a city, understated London is about as different as you can get from the brash American boxing meccas of Las Vegas, Reno, and Atlantic City. And having lived in both England and in North America, British boxing champion Lennox Lewis knows this better than most. He knows also that the boxing in Britain is different as well.
You have a lot of TV networks and they're at competitions. Over here you just have a couple TV networks, and I think the money's more greater over there because of pay-per-view.
The absence of major television money has made it unattractive for big-name fighters, even British ones like Lewis, to fight in England.
If I could say I want X to fight Y, and we've got thousands to pay for it, it would happen and it would be good for the game. But money dictates again, and we can't often afford to put the shows on that we want.
British promoters also lack access to a second source of revenue available to Americans.
You guys, if you want a big fight, you go to Atlantic City, Reno, or Vegas, okay? You get paid to have the fight. Over here, if you take Lewis Ruddock as an example, the guys have had to pay Earl's Court to stage the fight.
Casinos in America pay promoters for the right to stage fights, hoping to make a profit by selling tickets, and even more importantly, from the gambling money that the boxing fans spend on their casino floors. The absence of major fights in England is one factor leading to a recent drop-off in the number of British boxers, which in turn has caused a general decline in the quality of fighters here.
I find that training in America, it's easier for me to have sparring partners instead of calling for sparring partners in England.
And you're finding now that a lot of top boxers in England will go to America to train. Lennox Lewis cites the example that if one of his sparring partners was injured when he was training in England, he'd have to fly a guy in.
Not wanting to take that risk, Lewis chose to train in America for this fight, returning to England just days before the match.
The basic difference is that although you have state control in the United States, where there are state commissions and they are statutory commissions, we have a non-statutory body, the British Boxing Board of Control, but it basically controls the whole of professional boxing in the British Isles.
For this local fight in Liverpool, for example, there was no mishmash of state commissions all using different rules. In Britain, boxing is regulated by one central board. Surprisingly, though, the British do allow promoters to manage their fighters, a practice we in the United States regard as a conflict of interest.
I manage most of the boxers that I use, and I make no secret of it. The difference is that I'm out in the open, and whatever I'm doing, I have to be seen to be doing the right thing because I'm the official manager.
The question, of course, is this. If a promoter pits two of his fighters against each other, which one does he represent? It's a problem, but the British argue that in fact the same system is in place in the United States with the Dubas and the Kings, father-son promoter-manager arrangements.
The difference is whether you want to partake in window dressing or not.
TV interviews in the ring after fights are prohibited in England now, the direct result of British boxer Michael Watson having fallen into a coma last year in a ring so crowded with media that at first no one noticed.
The doctor has to look at the winner and the loser directly after the contest before any interview can take place, and now it has to be perhaps given at ringside if the boxer's in decent condition.
It's not going to make much difference to Lennox Lewis where he talks to media after he fights Razor Ruddock, as long as they're talking to the winner. We bring you back to ringside in Earl's Court, London, England, where in a matter of minutes now, Canadian Razor Ruddock faces Englishman Lennox Lewis in a heavyweight championship elimination bout. The winner to earn the right to fight the winner of Holyfield-Bowe for the crown. And for more on this exciting night of boxing in London, we turn you over once again to HBO boxing analyst Larry Merchant.
Let me introduce you to the heavyweight champion exactly 200 years ago, Daniel Mendoza, known throughout the kingdom as Mendoza the Jew. In those days, prize fighting was a marathon contest of you hit me and I'll hit you and we'll see which one of us survives. Mendoza revolutionized it by introducing boxing to prize fighting. And that brings us to Lennox Lewis and British heavyweights. Over this century, they've earned the reputation as horizontal heavyweights, or you hit me and I'll fall down heavyweights. Lennox Lewis has had the advantage of having grown up and spent half of his life in Canada and trained much of the time in North America. He is made of sterner stuff. He does fight as a boxer, but he can punch and he shows flashes of aggressiveness. He may be the real thing, a real fighter. And better than that. Razor Ruddock will bring out the best in him or the worst in him, especially if he's the improved Razor Ruddock he claims to be.
into a major fight like against Tyson, it's necessary for the trainers to be able to relate to the fighter, for the fighter to have confidence in the trainers in order to formulate a fighting plan, a battle plan. If he goes off course with his fighting plan, the trainers are there to say, wait, listen, stick to your plan and execute it this way because it will work. And that was not there in the two Tyson fights.
Perhaps it was a lack of big fight experience. Perhaps a case of too many cooks in the kitchen, too many trainers in the corner. The fact remains, Donovan "Razor" Ruddock lost two very important fights against Iron Mike Tyson.
I don't think it was a loss. I did the best I can. I came out on the bottom. There's no way you can beat me. There's no way. Because even when they think I lost, I feel that I didn't lose. And as long as I feel inside that I never lost, I feel good about myself, and I go back in there just as strong as I did before.
Both fights against Tyson offered important lessons for Ruddock. They helped to enhance his reputation and his career, earning him respect for his efforts. And they proved to Team Ruddock that it needed to make changes if it wanted to move forward in its quest for a title shot. That decision boiled down to one thing, the need for a new trainer.
If you look at the two Tyson fights, we have a lot of chaos in the corner. We had a lot of problems, and I didn't have no help. I didn't have no one to turn to in there. We definitely need someone who with experience, who's been there before.
One night, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I had this intuition. I woke up. I said, I got it. Floyd Patterson. That's the man that can train Razor Ruddock.
Floyd Patterson, Olympic gold medalist, trained by the legendary Customato, who went on to become the first ever two-time world heavyweight champion. Having trained mostly amateur boxers since the early 1970s, Floyd was impressed with the power and the potential of Razor Ruddock.
And I'm finding out that Razor has a tremendous amount of ability because he picks up just like that when he wants to. When you've done something for a number of years, all of a sudden you're told to do it another way, it's very, very hard. It confuses you, and that's the one thing I didn't want to do. So what I did very slowly.
With Patterson in his corner, Ruddock has added 2 more victories to his record, but it may take some time before he irons out all the bad habits he developed.
We're trying to put the right hand together. We're working on a lot of those things that will make me a little bit smoother in the ring.
Every time he throws the right hand, he tightens the right hand up because he wants to throw it as hard as he can, so he tightens up. And the moment he tightens up, he pulls back. When you pull back, you're now telegraphed. You've just told your opponent you're going to throw a right hand. The way to throw a right hand, you have to be exceptionally limber. You throw it as fast as you possibly can and very loose. The shoulder actually throws the punch.
Donovan "Razor" Ruddock not only listens, but respects the teachings of Floyd Patterson. The fact that Patterson won the title not once but twice gives Razor renewed faith that Patterson can lead him down that same road. And the win against Lennox Lewis ostensibly secures a title shot against the winner of Holyfield-Bowe.
For the first time in the history of boxing, there will be a former two-time heavyweight champion who will be the trainer of the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, and that's Donovan "Razor" Ruddock. And that's just my humble opinion.
Coincidence number 1 among many. Razor Ruddock isn't the only fighter in the ring tonight with a new trainer. Since his last appearance on HBO, a disappointing 10-round decision over Levi Billups in Las Vegas, Lennox Lewis fired former trainer John Davenport and has hired Pepe Correa, the man who in the late stages of Sugar Ray Leonard's career was Leonard's trainer.
Yes, and he is trying to imbue the habits of Leonard of being patient, taking his shot when it's there, not rushing things. From the noise of this crowd, they may be starting to accept Lennox Lewis in Britain. So far, they really don't see him as British since he won the Olympics under the Canadian flag. But if he wins tonight, he'll be more British than the Queen.
Born in London, reared in Jamaica and in Canada, won the 1988 Olympic gold medal for Canada, knocking out Ruddock-Bowe in the final. Now, a professional from England, Lennox Lewis, and the ring record for this man who now enters the ring to the standing ovation of English boxing fans. 21 consecutive wins for Lewis, 18 knockouts against, every expert would say, at best, indifferent opposition.
In part because good opposition didn't want to get in the ring with him at this stage of his career.
And now you hear the booing beginning to fester on the other side of the arena as Razor Ruddock makes his entrance into the ring. Razor Ruddock, who years ago in Toronto, Ontario, had an amateur fight against Lennox Lewis when Lewis was 15 years old, a 3-2 decision for Ruddock at that time. Later, when Lewis was still an amateur and Ruddock had turned pro, they sparred with each other. In the words of Lewis, they sparred countless rounds together. But as Lewis points out, Ruddock wasn't a slugger then. He was a boxer.
Ruddock is seen to have the advantage of a puncher and someone who's been in with tough opposition and having been hit hard and come back from being hit hard. But I think you have to suspect somebody whose credibility is based on losing twice to Mike Tyson.
19 rounds with Tyson. He was knocked down 4 times. He won 3 of the 19 rounds, and yet off of that, many observers call him the best heavyweight in the division, the uncrowned champion. Tail of the tape for Lennox Lewis and Razor Ruddock. And you see the weights, 231.5 for Ruddock, 227.5 for Lewis. Not the roly-poly heavyweights of years past, 2 sculpted Adonises. Punch stat numbers, Larry Merchant.
Well, from these numbers, you can see where many people are backing Lewis, the underdog, because he throws so many more punches than Ruddock, at least the Ruddock we're used to, who was basically a one-handed fighter, that big left. And Lewis's advantage is pronounced with the jab. He has to win with the jab. Ruddock has used it sparingly, although he is said to have had a very good one before he turned out to be a slugger.
Now for the rules of tonight's Lewis-Ruddock bout, we go to our unofficial ringside scorer, Harold Letterman.
Razor Ruddock and Lennox Lewis will fight tonight using the rules of the World Boxing Council. 12 rounds, 3 judges scoring the fight, 10-point must system. There is no standing 8 count, no 3 knockdown rule. He can be saved by the bell in the last round only. Jim.
Electric environment in Earl's court. We go to ring announcer Mike Goodall for the national anthems and the pre-fight introductions.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please be upstanding for both national anthems? Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to viewers on HBO Sports throughout Canada and the United States of America to Earl's Court Arena in the heart of London town in England. This is the main event of the evening, sponsored by Nightstick. Craig Maloney for Championship Enterprises and the main events in association with Murad Mohammed, 3M Promotions Incorporated, presents the Fight for the Right, a contest of 12 3-minute rounds, the WBC final eliminator for the heavyweight championship of the world, and to decide the heavyweight championship of the Commonwealth. The officials appointed for this contest by the WBC, the supervisor in charge, Mr. Jose Sullivan, president of the WBC, the British Boxing Board of Control steward in charge, Mr. Nipper Reid, the timekeeper this evening, Mr. Tommy Rice of London. The judges are Mr. Chuck Hazzett of Anaheim, California, Mr. Franz Marty of Ottringham, Switzerland, and Mr. Tom Kazmarek of Brick, New Jersey. The referee in charge of the action this evening, Mr. Joe Cortez of the United States of America. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing in the red corner, his record reads 27 wins, 3 losses, 1 draw, 20 wins by KO. From Toronto, Canada, the #1 ranked by the WBC, Donovan Razor Ruddock. And in the blue corner, wearing the red trunks from East London, England, his record wins 21 contests, 21 wins, 18 by KO, the British, Commonwealth and European heavyweight champion, ranked by the WBC #2, Lennox Lewis. And the official weigh-in, Ruddock scale 231.5 pounds, 16 stone, 7.5 pounds. Lewis, 227.5 pounds, 16 stone, 3.5 pounds. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you.
Take a punch. But that's often the big issue when a fighter fights his first major fight. And if they got the right stuff, they come through it. If he can take a punch, we may have something special here.
I look for Lennox Lewis to follow instruction. Now try to get as many jabs into the chest of Ruddock, take away that power, because Ruddock is not interested in nothing until the last round.
Not since the days of Bob Fitzsimmons in the last decade of the 19th century has an English-born fighter held the heavyweight crown. Is Lennox Lewis about to take a step toward wiping out that century of frustration? Or is Razor Ruddock indeed the uncrowned champion of the sport? We are about to find out. Ruddock wants to wrestle. Remember that the two fighters know each other exceedingly well, even though it has been years since they've been in the ring together.
I get the feeling that Ruddock is a bit overexcited, George.
Yeah, he's trying to be an aggressor, and he's not an aggressor. And at the same time, he wants to fulfill Floyd Patterson's dream to be a good boxer. This could be one of the most confused fighters tonight.
Which punch will dominate the bout? Will it be Lewis's jab, which you've seen there, or will it be Ruddock's smashing left hook? Lewis initiates the action so far. He says his plan is to stick the jab, stay relaxed, move away from the left hook, and outbox Ruddock.
Of course, Lord Patterson has been telling Ruddock, jab to the body so you can get the right hand in. Good left hook to the body, of course.
Ruddock did not remember to go to the body much against Mike Tyson in those two fights. He has begun with at least one body shot here. Both fighters using the jab to begin. There's the left hook, reaching and flailing by Ruddock. Short left hook.
Left hook hurt. He didn't intend for it to hurt because he caught him off guard, but believe me, Lewis is hurt at this moment.
2 minutes into round one. Lewis sticking the jab. Ruddock shows the left hook but doesn't bring it. Among Ruddock's many technical shortcomings in recent fights is a tendency to telegraph all of his punches.
Good left jab. If Lewis can continue to establish his dominant jab, it makes us an easy fight. If he backs away, he's going to just fall victim to a wild left hook.
And Ruddock, who claimed that he would box, began with the jab, but in the last 30 seconds has been flailing with the left hook as always. That doesn't mean it's ineffective. He has so much power behind him.
Razor Ruddock with one punch.
First round.
We'll go back to look at that punch. A straight overhand right. Ruddock had been waving that left hand menacingly, but keeping it low. Lewis sized him up. He had thrown two wild rights earlier in the round, but now he has really put... This is how it looked in real speed once again from above. Perfect right hand. Ruddock down.
You can't do it better. George, how will that change the fight?
Not at all, because Ruddock, he's been knocked down in the early rounds before. Doesn't change anything, but he's better respect more than the left jab of Lennox Lewis. He's got a right hand to worry about too.
Lewis hurting Ruddock with the left hook. Ruddock in serious trouble as Lewis pounds into the canvas. Second knockdown of the fight. And already Lennox Lewis has equaled Mike Tyson's knockout output against Razor Ruddock in both of the two Tyson-Ruddock fights. Lennox Lewis is in total command now. Can he finish? Right hand to the body. Ruddock in trouble. Second knockdown of round two.
That's all. It's over. We have a great new heavyweight on the boxing scene. Lennox Lewis may turn out to be not only the greatest heavyweight in British history, but the greatest fighter in European history.
I agree.
George, is he going to be heavyweight champion of the world?
There's nothing can stop this young man but himself. If he keeps his feet on the ground, he can become not only a good champion, but a clean liver and a well-spoken boy from a good family.
The amazing thing to me is he showed not only spectacular power, but perfect technique.
He had a good left hook at more than we expected tonight. Good overhand right, but a left hook that really dropped him the last time.
Razor Ruddock, as shocked as anyone else here by his quick knockout at the hands of Lennox Lewis.
I want to go back to something I said earlier, Jim. I don't trust the reputation of a man who made it based on losing two fights. Here's the first knockdown in the second round, which is the second round down of the fight. Very coolly, very efficiently. going after Ruddock after the first round knockdown. Ruddock was hurt, came out in the second round trying to look like he could still fight, plainly had nothing left. And here is the end of the fight. Ruddock manfully trying to land something to get Lewis off him, but he can't.
Oh, look at that right hand.
No doubt about it, a clean knockout.
Referee Joe Cortez didn't even bother to finish the count.
Here in London, it's 1 o'clock, and would you believe the Sunday punch? 1 o'clock in the morning, Sunday in London, belonged to Lennox Lewis, not Razor Ruddock.
And dawn may be breaking at the end of a dark century for British heavyweights. Lennox Lewis of London is headed uptown.
Well, he just became the most Britisher in the British Isles.
That's right. He's no Canadian here anymore. You wonder how that man knocked out Holyfield-Bowe to win an Olympic gold medal? That's how he did it. Now, normally at this point, you would see Larry Merchant going into the ring to interview the two fighters. But the British Board of Boxing Control mandates that both fighters must be examined by doctors in the ring prior to any interview. So Larry will wait here at ringside with us. And Lewis comes to our side of the ring to wave to the crowd and say, I'm ready.
Lennox. Right here. Right here.
I told you he could.
And Lewis gets the approval of George Foreman at close range. There's tremendous excitement in the ring. The British did not expect a full house in there as they've got right now. Lewis steps down. He is incredibly calm, George. If there was one thing we took away from our meetings with the two fighters yesterday, it was that Lewis was either faking it or was as calm before a big fight as any fighter you've ever seen.
It's the right way to be. He passed every test in my eyes. I thought maybe the fight would go longer and he would win, but I never expected a dynamite left hook like that.
Most people thought that the question was whether Ruddock would knock out Lewis, whether Lewis could survive Ruddock's punch. It turns out that the answer was that Ruddock couldn't take Lewis's punch.
Ruddock, fine fighter, but he underestimated this kid.
Well, he didn't show technique. He said he came into the ring to box. 1 minute into the fight, he was flailing with the left hook again, leaving himself wide open.
Too confused, too confused.
And we remind you, our ongoing phone poll on the Holyfield-Bowe fight. You call right now because the poll is going to be closing rather quickly this evening, not like Election Day on Tuesday. If you believe that Holyfield will retain his title on November 13, give a call to 1-900-246-HOLY, H-O-L-Y. Or if you believe Bowe is going to take the title from Holyfield, call 1-900-246-BOWE. As soon as we've tabulated the results, not too terribly long from now, we'll be talking live in Houston to Evander Holyfield, who has just watched Lennox Lewis's quick destruction of Razor Ruddock. Right now, let's go to ring announcer Mike Goodall, somewhere in the melee in there, for the official decision.
46 seconds of round 2. The winner on a knockout, Lennox Lewis!
So the man who lasted through almost 19 full rounds with Mike Tyson lasts 3 minutes, 46 seconds against the heretofore largely unheralded contender, Lennox Lewis.
I expected as much.
Yeah, you did. You predicted that Lewis would win the fight, and you have been adamant about it all week, George. I've got to give you credit. George never backed down. In the face of writers who said, oh, he's crazy, Ruddock has to win this fight by knockout. I thought he'd win the fight, too, but I thought he'd win by a decision. I did not expect that he was going to annihilate Razor Ruddock with
I thought after the first knockdown, Ruddock would continue to brawl a little bit, but have this respect to enable Lewis to win a decision. I never expected him to try to clean house.
Well, Harold, how'd you score it?
Boy, Jim, I'll tell you, I'm the most amazed man in the place. There's no question that I thought Razor Ruddock was going to win the fight.
Yeah, you're the one in our group who's been picking Ruddock.
I went with experience all the way. Lennox Lewis certainly surprised me.
So
tremendous right hand. He did measure him like he said he was going to do in a meeting with us, and boy, he tagged him with that right hand after he measured him with the left.
Well, he delivers the right hand very quickly, doesn't he?
Exactly. He measures you with the left, tags you with the overhand right.
The thing with Ruddock is a lot of confusion. He's a puncher. Everybody's calling him a puncher, so he's expected to attack this young boy. And at the same time, Patterson is teaching him to box. How can you get in the ring with such confusion?
Well, and let's face it, George, Ruddock has been living on the mystique of Mike Tyson. Everybody thought Ruddock was so good, or at least those who thought he was going to win this fight, because they thought Tyson was so good. But the Tyson who beat Ruddock was not the Tyson of earlier in his career. And right now, Larry Merchant stands by with the triumphant 27-year-old Lennox Lewis. Larry.
Lennox, we're sorry, but the rule in Great Britain is that the doctor has to examine the fighter in the ring. There's such a mob scene here that we're going to have to wait a while.
All right, Larry. As we wait for the interview with Lennox Lewis, let's move ahead a little bit in the format right now and go to November 13th, when at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific time, you will have your chance to watch the heavyweight title bout between Evander Holyfield and Ruddock-Bowe. But now Holyfield rips another uppercut and Cooper standing stock still. This could be it now.
Mr. Evander, you see how hard I'm sweating? I'm not working as hard for nothing.
When it's over, I'll still be the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
The war of words always comes first. Several weeks ago, the inevitable posturing began. On one side, a brash, young, undefeated challenger, Ruddock-Bowe. On the other, a curiously reserved boxing star, world heavyweight champion Evander Holyfield. From a desperate Brooklyn neighborhood, few would have predicted Bowe would have come this far, this fast. As an amateur, he was tagged a lazy, heartless big mouth. But as a pro, Bowe has benefited from the expert handling of manager Rock Newman and legendary trainer Eddie Futch. Newman remembers the earlier, less focused Ruddock-Bowe.
A prankster, mischievous, harmless, a knucklehead. But even in the midst of all of that, a very likable, lovable, fun-loving, kind of happy-go-lucky guy who, again, really just needed direction.
And it appears that this Bowe knows how to listen. But if he keeps this up, they'll stop him. In July, Bowe left South African Pierre Cutzer bloody and battered. Holyfield had agreed to fight the winner, and Bowe immediately dismissed the champ.
Everybody's been saying that Evander Holyfield isn't a genuine heavyweight champion, including yourself, I should add.
I know what you're about to say, but I still don't believe he takes a punch as well as Pierre Cutzer.
Since having won the title in 1990, Holyfield has defended it 3 times, but never without trouble. Holyfield wobbles in the corner. The champion in trouble. Cooper backs away. Holyfield almost goes down.
He barely got by George Foreman, and he barely got by Larry Holmes. Slipped by Burt Cooper. There's no way he's going to get by me.
All the fights that I ever knocked somebody out because they were trying to knock me out. And George Foreman didn't try to knock me out. Larry Holmes didn't try to knock me out. Burt Cooper did, and I knocked him out.
Let's find out about the hearts that night. Let's find out about who wants it more. Who wants it more? Let's find out if you get knocked down, who gets up.
You crazy. Knock me down. Say that again. I didn't hear that. Knock me down. You don't feel bad when they say maneuver. Undefeated, undisputed, heavyweight champion of the world.
So the questions arise. Will youth be served? Will it be a night for a fresh 25-year-old, undefeated in 31 fights? Or will Holyfield and his magnificent composure make youth irrelevant? Will it be a short bout, with Bowe making quick work of the champion with size and power? Or will it be a marathon, a long, agonizing duel decided by Holyfield's conditioning and heart?
He said he's going to put a lot of pressure on me. I just want to see how he's going to react when I go upside his head.
I think power is thinking. research, power thinking, I'm the winner.
In 2 weeks, amid the glowing neon of downtown Las Vegas, against the most capable challenger he has yet faced, Evander Holyfield defends his undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Catch it on TVKO, Friday the 13th at 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific time. All right, we bring you back now to the chaos of ringside at Earl's Court. Coming up in just a couple of minutes, the results of the Holyfield-Bowe phone poll, your votes on who you think is going to win that title fight, and a live interview with Evander about what he's just seen and the results of that poll and the upcoming fight. Right now, Larry Merchant is with Lennox Lewis. Larry.
Okay, I think I am with Lennox Lewis this time. Lennox, you don't seem as stunned by the outcome of this fight as the rest of this crowd. Why?
No, because I visualized before the fight what exactly I was going to do. I realized that Razor is a person that gets agitated really fast, and even though I'm quiet, you can still hear my silence.
What does that mean exactly? You're looking across the ring, he was jumping up and down, he came out like 110 miles an hour. Did you feel that he was overexcited, that he was going to leave himself open?
I looked into his eyes and just looked at his, at his physical self, and I realized that, he was he looked scared to me, and I was just calm. I knew what I was going to do, and I knew what I wanted to do, so I just went out there and asserted myself and did it.
What did you want to do? What had you seen about Razor Ruddock that resulted in the result we got?
Well, I realized by watching tapes of him that he keeps his left hand really low. Razor's never been in with a guy that throws a natural right hand that is as fast as me, and that was a surprise for Razor Ruddock.
Is that why you threw those two wild rights in the first round, because you were anxious to get that in?
I was very anxious. One of my biggest problems is that I get too over-anxious, and I want to prove myself too fast. But with the help of my team around with Courtney Sham, my conditioner, Harold Knight, Pepe Curris, Ali, and my sparring partners, Tubbs and Weaver, they helped me to overcome that.
What are your thoughts about Holyfield versus Bowe and your opportunity to fight the winner?
I believe that, Holyfield, I give him the edge because he's a boxer and he's a workaholic. But before I said I was knocking at the door, I kicked down the door tonight. I'm coming after Holyfield.
Thank you very much, Lennox Lewis. Jim?
All right, thanks a lot, Larry. George, you've been telling me all week Lewis was going to win this fight. You sold me yesterday, as did Larry. We knew about all his other qualities. Now we know about his power.
He's got true power. There's no hype about this guy. He can not only become heavyweight champ of the world, but he can keep it for a long time, fighting guys who are not really good predators, as you saw with Ruddock tonight. He tried to come forward, but he didn't know how. Patterson had taught him how to box. He was a confused fighter more than anything.
So part of this is that Ruddock was overrated.
Overrated at going to seek out knockouts. He's a good guy if nothing else is happening. He will hurt you, but not tonight. It's been a good night for Lennox Lewis.
All right, and a great night for British boxing fans, none of whom want to leave, incidentally. We're surrounded by the entire crowd in the arena. I don't think a single person has walked out. This is one they'll savor for a long time. And what excitement we'll have here if Lewis does, in fact, as the contracts say he does, get a chance to fight for the heavyweight champion.
I think it's going to be a wonderful day. It's going to be a wonderful day for the whole world because, like I said, the world market now, you're going to see an international champion from another country challenging and probably winning the heavyweight championship of the world.
Well, that's interesting. You just picked him to win the heavyweight championship. Now, Holyfield's people have said that if Holyfield beats Bowe, they're willing to come fight Lewis here. I'm not sure that's a great idea.
I don't think they really want to fight Lewis anywhere, if you ask me. This guy's got such a dynamite right hand. He's somebody you better let age a little bit like a piece of meat. Piece of meat.
Well, the WBC says it's going to make sure that the winner of Holyfield-Bowe fights Lennox Lewis. It's an experience Razor Ruddock has just had, much to his displeasure, and Razor's ready to talk about it with Larry.
All right, Razor, what from your point of view happened?
Well, I think that, I don't want to make an excuse. Lennox Lewis is a good fighter. I did not underestimate him at all. But, fighting in this climate is just, I can't make an excuse. I just wasn't warm enough, And he hit me, didn't really hurt me, but he had me down. He shot me, and he never really hurt me, but he shot me and he got me down. So I have to take my hat off to Lennox Lewis because we have to lose with dignity too, because we win with dignity and we lose with dignity.
You seemed a little bit nervous, high-strung, agitated, almost over-eager when the fight started. Did you want to send him a message?
Something like that, a little bit of intimidation, I think it was. I figure that we're warriors, and we can't expect to win them all. And I come in here, I try my best, and hey, it happens. This happened to the best of us all.
Your old friends or old opponents from way back when you were teenagers, he seemed from those experiences not to be over-intimidated by you.
Well, no, but I wasn't really intimidated at all. I was just trying to send a message to him, like a little bit of, you know.
All right, do you think he's going to become the next heavyweight champion?
Yeah, I think so, because anyone who beat me, I have to take my hat off to him, because first of all, it wasn't, I went 12 rounds with Mike Tyson with my jaw broken, but for some reason or another, this is the way the boxing game goes. Sometimes you lose, sometimes you win, you know what I mean?
Thank you very much, Razor Ruddock.
All right, thank you.
Jim?
Classy as he was in defeat against Mike Tyson. All right, let's move on to other business. Take a look at the results of the phone poll. How did you vote on the subject of who is going to win Holyfield-Bowe? Well, you voted 55 to 45% in favor of Holyfield. So the public continues by a relatively small margin to back the champion, Evander Holyfield, against Ruddock-Bowe, and about to come up on TVKO on the 13th of November. And right now, joining us live from Houston, Texas, is the still undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, Evander Holyfield. Evander, welcome to HBO Sports again. Before we get to talk of Louis Ruddock, what do you think about the public's urge to say that you're going to win your fight with Ruddock-Bowe?
It's a lot of smart people. You know, they right, I will win.
All right, Evander, what did you think of Lennox Lewis's destruction of Ruddock?
Well, Lennox fought a smart fight, and it seemed that he was more patient. He was using the jab, and I knew in a matter of time as Razor Ruddock kept jabbing to the body, he was going to catch him with an overhand right. And he was able to catch him with a good overhand right.
Evander, as one who has worked for years to improve your boxing skills, does it do your heart a little bit of good to see the boxer overpower the puncher the way Louis did?
Well, in general, and fights such as the Lennox fight and Razor, you know, I am favorite Razor because he was a two-hand fighter. It's just hard for just a knockout puncher with one hand to be able to be a slick boxer with good experience and a fighter that's
Evander,
not a player.
I know you don't want to look past the championship fight, but your managers, Lou Duva and Shelley Finkel, have indicated, at least preliminarily, that if you win that fight, you might consider coming here to London to fight Louis. Would you reconsider that after what you saw here?
Well, you know, my mind's just on fighting Bowe and getting through with Bowe and taking a rest. And I'll deal with that next year sometime after I win the fight on the 13th.
All right. I'm sorry, go ahead. All right, Evander, I can't hear you very well because of all the chaos here, so I apologize for the fits and starts that we're having here. Now, you spent a lot of time following the Braves in the National League Championship Series and then in the World Series, about which your trainer said, we wish he were here in camp all the time. Are you satisfied that your training has gone well enough for you to be in peak shape against Ruddock?
Well, I'm satisfied. I did all I could do. I'm in great shape. I've been 12 rounds, and I look forward to November 13th. I have no complaints about anything, and I know November 13th I'll be ready, and I give my best. And I realize my best is good enough, I win. And it's been good enough every fight I've fought, and I'm looking forward to keeping the championship.
Bowe doesn't seem to offer you as much respect as some of your opponents have. He openly states that he doesn't think you can take his punch. Does that help to motivate you?
Well, no, not at all. I know what I can do. One thing Bowe can say that he's never been in the ring with me, actually in a fight. Come November 13, he will realize I can punch or not. The fact that if I can't, then he'll know. If I can, he would know. And everybody would know.
Yeah, that's right. There's excitement here tonight because everybody sees this as another step forward in the heavyweight division. It's exciting to look ahead to a championship fight in 2 weeks. Does it excite you to see this sudden convergence of activity, big fights, legitimate challenges of the kind which will finally make the public sit up and say, yeah, Evander Holyfield fights the best?
Well, I don't look at so much about me. I look at the boxing game itself. I truly believe that the Razor Ruddock fight and Leonard Lewis fight put a little spark in a lot of people's interest that the two best fighters are fighting each other. The Bowe and I fight, and the best man come out on top. I think it just make the whole game better, and I just look forward to going out there, taking care of Bowe, then taking a rest, then look at the possibility to fight Lennox Lewis and taking him out.
What kind of a fight do you expect against Bowe?
Well, I truly believe it'll be a very aggressive fight. I realize that he do think that I can't punch, but that's something that I'm willing to prove. And I'm in great shape, and I'm looking forward to making him fight each and every second that he's in there, and hopefully get him out of there as soon as possible.
Evander, you said in an earlier answer in this interview that you were looking forward to beating Bowe and then taking a rest. How long a rest might that be?
Well, at least to January. I'm fighting in November, and then after I'm getting ready for Thanksgiving, Christmas, then New Year. Then after New Year, then I'm ready to talk about what's next.
So a likely date for the next defense might be as early as April or May?
That's possible. I can't say what's ahead now. I just got to look forward to November the 13th against Ruddock.
And will you stick to the rules of the contracts as they are written and fight Lennox Lewis next if you beat Bowe?
Of course, I would fight Lennox Lewis next because this is next. Not to the point that it's in the rules and regulations saying what I have to do. I'm the heavyweight champion of the world, and I live by the rules and regulations. As the rules stimulates me to fight him next, then I would fight him next. Just because I told them I would fight him next, I would fight him next regardless to if any rule wasn't even in effect. My word is
Evander,
good.
you are Yep, go ahead.
So my word is good.
Yep, we know that. We agree. We've done business with you for years, and we'll attest to that. Your word is good. Ladies and gentlemen, he's still the undisputed champion, and a very classy one at that. Evander, thank you as always for your good grace in joining us tonight.
Thank you very much.
All right. And that will be the Evander Holyfield versus Ruddock-Bowe World Heavyweight Championship fight coming up on TBKO, our pay-per-view sister arm, Friday, November 13th, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, 6 o'clock Pacific Time. Be sure to call your local cable operator for details on how to see that fight. All right, so you have seen Lennox Lewis's rapid destruction. 46 seconds of the second round of the former #1 heavyweight contender under the rules of the WBC, Razor Ruddock. Now another visit from the Crypt Keeper.
Nothing warms the ghoul like a good rumble. Nothing that is except 2 rumbles. So, Ghoulie, how about a nice fight night, fright night, double creature feature? Let's see if Meldrick Taylor can keep his opponent in stitches, and you might unpin the needle.
Back in Earl's Court, and your chance now to see the WBA World Welterweight Championship fight between Meldrick Taylor, the champion, and Crisanto España of Venezuela. Heretofore unknown, Larry, from Terry Norris to Crisanto España in 6 months. Is this a mark for Meldrick Taylor of how far the mighty has fallen?
Yeah, this is a come-down, but it's a come-down for the best of all reasons. Meldrick Taylor has been a risk-taker. Being a risk-taker took him to the heights he was at. Being a risk-taker took him into the ring with Terry Norris. Terry Norris took him out. But we have to keep something in mind. Risk-taking is good in prize fighting. This kid has been a whirlwind. He has had an intense, short career, and we never know where it's going to take him next. Keep in mind that after that he lost that controversial, heartbreaking decision or knockout to the great Julio Cesar Chavez, he came back and won the welterweight championship. He has to come back again now from that knockout by Terry Norris in order to get another fight with Julio Cesar Chavez. It's my information that they've already agreed to that fight for next year. but he's got to go through a pretty tough Venezuelan Irishman tonight to do it.
Indeed, and George Foreman, it's one of the oldest and most familiar stories in the sport. Taylor tries to come back now from a devastating knockout at the hands of Norris. What do you make of Meldrick's chances to do it?
Well, Mildred's got all the equipment to be on top. I do believe his loss was a managerial problem in the first place. He was just matched with the wrong guy at the wrong time. This guy's still got the world at his feet. He can still become and reclaim greatness if he wants.
147-pound world championship fight. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape now from Meldrick Taylor and Crisanto España. And you will see that Taylor is 2 years younger at 26. España is a lanky welterweight, 5 feet 11 inches tall. Exceptionally long arms give him a 10-inch reach advantage. Punch stat numbers, Larry.
All right, let's take a look at the fight averages. They throw roughly the same amount of punches, land about the same, but they've had far different levels of competition. And here are the jab picture. Taylor throws many more jabs. He's going to have to use that jab to get in close to España tonight, past that reach.
And now for the rules of this welterweight championship bout, let's go to Harold Letterman.
Crisanto España and Meldrick Taylor will box tonight using the rules of the World Boxing Association. 12 rounds, 3 judges scoring the fight on a 10-point must system, no standing 8 count. The 3 knockdown rule is in effect. You can be saved by the bell in the last round only, and in case a cut is caused by an accidental butt and that cut causes the fight to be stopped, we will go to the scorecards after 3 rounds have been completed. Before that, it's a technical draw. Jim?
All right, let's reestablish for you. This bout has taken place before the Lewis-Ruddock fight. You are watching a taped recording of it coming up. We will pick up the action between Taylor and España in round number 1. 12 rounds for the WBA Welterweight Championship of the World. Meldrick Taylor, still the title holder. His championship was not at stake in his 4-round knockout loss to Terry Norris in May of this year against Crisanto España. Originally from Venezuela, he spent the first 4 years of his professional boxing career in Venezuela, but only had a total of 5 fights. So at that point, he searched for another place in the world to continue his professional career and found a home with promoter Barney Eastwood in Northern Ireland. España, now married to a Northern Irish woman, lives about 16 kilometers down the road from Belfast in the town of Bangor, and regards himself